First, I want to thank John for letting us know that we're here. Thank you for that Bach prelude, Christ is risen. And happy Easter, everybody, and welcome. I'm happy to be and honored to be the service coordinator today because Easter is my very favorite day of the year, and spring is my very favorite time of the year. So I guess I'm happy. Even though the weather wasn't what I imagined, but then Donna Durgan changed all that. She's created all these ecosystems of spring all around. And thank you for all who donated those flowers. I read the list, and I read the list of your loved ones, and I feel that they all can be with us today. So thank you for that. I have to make sure I don't miss things. Our minister, Reverend Leon Dunkley, is here to lead the service. Tatum? There he is. All right. He's here for the children's spiritual exploration. There are hearing devices and large print of the hymns and of the water of service. If you need that, they're in the back. Coffee hour will be downstairs right after the service, and please join us there. There are lots of healthy things and some other things too. There's so much else in today's order of service that's important, so please take it home with you so you don't miss anything you'd like to attend. There's the Hyannis Sound next Sunday at 2 p.m. and Leon's film series that's going to be happening on 3 Sundays in April and May, and a critical blood donation drive happening on Friday in the social hall. And I don't know if there are any other announcements. Okay, good. You may have already noticed in your order of service that the theme for April is choosing hope. And as I looked at that, I was grateful to Jane Hufferdine, who does these themes for us throughout the months, that she didn't say choosing optimism. And I thought to myself, can we really choose hope? And can we choose hope in a hopeless situation? And so when I usually ask a question that's heartfelt and sincere, I usually get the answer, and it arrives. And yesterday, as I was trying to figure out what I would read on Easter, and keep with the theme, which is hopeful, I found a letter that a Palestinian woman named Rawand Gawad wrote to a man named Bill Earhart, who's a poet, a scholar, and a Vietnam veteran. And then after I got printed this morning, I thought, oh dear, I think this letter is a little too long for opening words. But then I thought, well, we're talking about hope versus hopelessness, and so I hope you'll bear with me for the 4 minutes that I think it will be. First, this from Bill Earhart. Regular readers will remember that I've shared previous letters from Rawand Gawad, the young Palestinian mother of 2 small boys who lives in Gaza and with whom I've developed a very real connection. Today I received this letter from Rawad, dated March 31st, 2026. Dear friend, each day when I open my eyes, the first thing that comes to my mind is, I am still alive. I then look quickly to see that my children and husband are still alive also, and I say, praise be to God. You must know that this war is not over. We still live the ongoing violence every hour, and it has increased since the attack on Iran. In the mornings, I open the tent flap and I see the trees what is left of the trees, moving. Did you know that in Gaza, the Israelis also target the trees? This is because our olive trees are symbols of life and sustenance. So the trees that have survived one more day are like me, and we greet one another. It is a comfort to hear the sound of the leaves to my right and left. Like us, the trees are exhausted with living. Like us, they insist on staying. In fact, I want to shout out the beauty of the leaves moving, but the tents are so close to one another that I cannot feel free to shout. I cannot move or laugh or cry with any privacy. This war has changed us from a people who fought to make free spaces inside imprisoned Gaza to people living in small tent prisons, surviving the rain, the cold, the illness that easily overcomes us. Before the war, we kept our floors clean, our bodies washed. I don't have enough water to wash myself and my children. My hands are constantly unclean from the refuse with which we make fires because we don't have gas. But today I want to speak to you about sand. How can something you yearn for turn into something that is almost torture? Sand is this way for me, though once it was my closest friend. I grew up by the sea. As a child, I would make hills in the sand and faces and holes for mouths where the water would pour in from the sea and fill them up. As an adult, I was always quick to take off my shoes. I needed to feel the sand on my feet, precious drops of sand that would give me a cold happiness all over. And best of all, the sand was a place I could write words until the sea took them back. I never minded. I trusted my words were kept safe there. Now, the sand that was once my friend comes into my tent without invitation. My tent cannot stay clean. At night, I feel the kernels of sand on the mattress. Try it out for yourself as an experiment. Spill a handful of sand onto your bed and lie down on it. You will feel that your body becomes a friction and you cannot sleep. When the winds come, the sand spills into our food, onto our plates, and into our glasses. So much sand. At night, the constant sound of drones rips through our dreams before we can even dream them and wakes us up. To rest well, one needs safety and security, but we have none. A thief can enter our tent and steal from us. Dogs can enter our tent like wild shadows and scare the children. And yet, every day, we still try to make a new beginning. And today, the leaves that greet me in the morning remind me that spring is not far away. They can steal our safety. They can and do steal our lives, but they cannot steal spring from our hearts. There too, in our hearts, the leaves are crowding and giving us a fragile hope.
far beyond the grasp of hands or light to meet the eye, and past the reachings of the mind. There we find the key to nature's harmony in an architecture so entwined, like birds whose patterns grace the sky and carry all who join in love expanding. The message of peace will rise in flight, taking the weight of the world upon its wing, in the oneness of everything. The oneness of everything. This is my understanding of the meaning of the word sanctuary. But we have to work for it. We have to breathe into it. We have to labor for it. Sanctuary is not our inheritance. It isn't handed over to us. It's not a social given or a spiritual inevitability. We have to work for it. We have to breathe into it. We have to labor. And sanctuary is not always obvious. One might mistake its markings and allow it to slip right through our fingers, and then it's gone if we're not careful. Just like the riches that slipped through the fingers of a once and foolish king. Good morning and good Sunday. I hope that this new day finds you well. Today is Sunday. It's Easter Sunday, the day that the women from Galilee were so surprised. Hi. Speaking of surprises. Are you Johanna or Magdalene? You see, a fine and good man, an upstanding man, a member of the council, had once asked Pilate to take down the body of Jesus, to remove him from the cross. He asked permission respectfully, and he got it. He took down the body and wrapped it in linen cloth and placed it in a tomb cut in rock, one in which no one had yet been laid. These are the words of the Gospel of Luke. The women who came with Jesus from Galilee, they saw the tomb and his body being laid in it. And they went home and prepared spices and perfumes. They rested on the day of the Sabbath, but they returned the following day. Very early in the morning, the women took the spices they had prepared and went to the tomb. They found the stone in front of the tomb had been rolled away. And when they entered the tomb, they did not find the body of Lord Jesus. They must have been pretty surprised. Surprised that he whose life was taken so wrongfully and with such violence had by God been empowered to fly free from the tomb. They must have been good and pretty surprised. Luke says that while they were wondering about this, suddenly 2 men in clothes that gleamed like lightning stood before them, and in their fright the women bowed, and they bowed their faces down to the ground. But the men said to them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here, he has risen." Quoting a lot of Bible this morning. Remember how he told you while he was still with you in Galilee, the Son of Man must be delivered over to the hands of the sinners, be crucified, and on the 3rd day be risen again. Then they remembered his words, and when they came back to the tomb, they told all of these things to the 11 and to the others. It was Mary Magdalene and Johanna, and Mary, mother of James, and the others who were with them, as they told the apostles. But they did not believe the women, because their words seemed like nonsense. Peter, however, got up and ran to the tomb. Bending over, he saw the strips of linen lying by themselves, and he went away, wondering to himself what had happened. What had happened was that Jesus had risen. He had flown out from the tomb against the odds and against the grain. He had blossomed. He had flowered. It's an incredible story. It is bedrock. It is the very cornerstone of Christianity, which over time has been coupled with the story of an Easter bunny and tie-dye hippie rainbow-colored eggs. Mary Magdalene and Johanna and Mary, the mother of James, and the other women had been surprised by resurrection, which was, I wish I were that noble. I wish that folks like me were as noble and as brave as those women, for as they say, their eyes were watching God. They were surprised by the holy miracle of Western civilization. These folks, like me, were surprised by the holy miracle that came to be associated with this day. But I am surprised by a man-sized rabbit and a basket full of eggs in fancy dress. However it is that you attend the holy miracle of Easter Sunday, whichever way you allow yourself to be surprised by life, today is Easter. Today is Easter, y'all. The miracle is right here and with us. It's right here in this sanctuary, and it looks like smiles, and it looks like light, and it looks like overly gorgeous members of the choir, and it looks like Kids Club as they race to the door and out into the mystery. Today is Easter. It is a day of miracles and new life and new light. Just out of curiosity, by a show of hands, how many of you, when you think of Easter, primarily think of the Easter Bunny, and how many of you think of the story of Jesus? How many Easter Bunny people are there? And how many Jesus people are there? Okay, we're a little bit... Oh! Leave it to charity, you know, right? The Easter Bunny is actually a beautiful old European story. Do you guys know it? I'm going to share what I can of it with you. Once upon a time, there was a king who had a very powerful magician in his court. One day, the magician gave the king a hen that laid beautiful eggs as a present. The king liked the eggs, but he was greedy, and he told the magician, I do that all the time. He told the magician that he would like the hen a lot better if the chicken could lay eggs of gold. Greedy kings can be like that. They can be dazzled by golden things, by golden eggs, by golden cats, by golden ballrooms. It is not uncommon, it is not commonplace. It's not uncommon, it is commonplace. It is not exceptional, it is not miraculous, it's mundane. It's the part of the Easter story we've been telling for years and years, and it continues because the greedy king so greatly desired eggs of gold. The magician worked another magic spell, and sure enough, the hen started laying eggs of gold. The king was delighted, he became very rich, and the envy of other kings. He kept his special hen in a golden cage next to his throne. He knew that someday someone would try to steal his hen. So whenever visitors came, he would have his magician come and hide the special hen and substitute an ordinary hen in an ordinary cage. And sure enough, someone came and ran off with the hen in the golden cage. And the king was glad that he had his magician with him to switch the hens. And he sent word for the magician to bring back his hen. But the next day, the king looked over in the golden cage and he found only there a white rabbit. "What is this?" the king said. "This little rabbit, how did it get here?" The king opened the cage and had one of his footmen take the rabbit back out into the woods where it belonged. Then he called the magician and he said, "Where is my magic hen?" And he said, "I brought it back to you." And he said, "No, you didn't bring it back." He said, "I did bring it back. I just haven't had time to change it back into a chicken. Right now it's a rabbit." They never did find the little white rabbit, but from that day forward, the children found colored eggs hidden all over the kingdom, and some say every once in a while they found a golden one. So do you like that story? I like it very much. Of the characters in the story, which one is your favorite? Do you like the greedy king? Do you like the golden egg-laying hen? Do you like the king's magician who made that hen so famous? Or do you like them all? How many people like them all? In the spirit of oneness of everything, how does it feel to like them all? Those who study sleep tell us that we are all of the characters in our dreams. Right? I know I probably just caused several therapy needs, but we're all the characters in our dreams. Does that idea feel attractive or unattractive to you? The idea is attractive to a writer named Margaret Atwood. Margaret Atwood is an accomplished author. She's written many things, including The Handmaid's Tale. She is leading a masterclass online about creative writing. I saw the promo for it. It looks absolutely fabulous. She encourages her students to try on the idea of being every single character in the creative process. She invites us to remember the story of a little Red Riding Hood, the girl who goes over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house and meets peril at the hands of the big bad wolf. She meets peril, and then she goes into the woods. And she does not go into just any woods. Little Red goes into the deep, dark woods. And why would she do such a thing? Because it makes the story that much more exciting. The cheap drama of powerful adjectives is not the best way to strengthen one's writing, but it works if you're in the pinch. It also works well in politics these days, so we need to be careful. But there are better ways of telling stories, better ways of writing them, better ways of understanding them, better ways of reading them, better ways of bringing them back to life. We can be creative. We can spin things around a bit. We can turn the stories upside down until they are new to us, until they are wondrous and revealing. In Margaret Atwood telling of Little Red Riding Hood, she doesn't begin by telling about how dark and deep it was inside of the forest. She begins by talking about how dark and deep it was inside the wolf. It was very dark inside the wolf. What's so wonderful about her approach to writing is that it brings new life to old stories, which is particularly appropriate this morning, this particular Sunday morning, this particular Easter Sunday morning, this morning when we celebrate the bringing of new light into winter's darkness. This morning when we celebrate the rolling away of the stone and when we celebrate miracles. Traditionally, Easter is the Christian holiday that celebrates the resurrection. Easter celebrates a time when Jesus was released or released himself from the claims of death like the gentlest of flower petals, straining against the husk, straining against the bulb, straining against the weight of the world to find new grace and beauty. The Easter bunny is really cute, but only when you tell the story from a distance. The story of Easter is cute when it centers on colorful eggs, but up close, it is by far the most muscular and most strenuous of holidays. To resist the claims of darkness and to ascend to heaven above, defying the call of gravity in this way. To resist the call of darkness and transcend in prayer and in life, denying the call of empire in this way. Buried within us all are the most beautiful of flowers, rooting their ways down and forcing their ways up, rain-washed, drenched, mud-soaked, and nightly so close to freezing these days, but fighting hard to blossom in the morning once again. Against the odds and against the grain, we bloom into this, the morning of each new year. Spring delivers this. Each year we are so beautiful, stewards of love, prisoners of hope. Perhaps we don't have to choose hope, but allow hope to choose us. We are not distant from these, and we are reminded of the words of Hafiz, the ancient Persian poet, who says, "We have not come into this exquisite world to hold ourselves hostage from love or to confine our wondrous spirits, but to experience ever and ever more deeply our divine courage, freedom, and fire." This is resurrection, the meaning of rebirth. It is the very essence of paradise. In Saving Paradise, their book of 2008, Rebecca Parker and Rita Nakashima-Brock explain that as far back as the 4th century, Christians believed that paradise was not only created on earth once and long ago, but is still here. A Christian saint named Ephraim affirmed that paradise is this earth here and now, even amidst the injustice, the violence, and the suffering. The breath of paradise, Ephraim said, reaches us with its healing balms. We are sore in need of healing balms. We are so deeply in need of tender healing. We give this to ourselves, and we give this to one another. We give healing to one another. It's such a beautiful thing. This paradise, this heaven here on earth, this place of heart and mind and body and soul and actuality that stands apart from injustice, that stands apart from violence, that stands apart from suffering, this healing station, this refuge, indeed this sanctuary. We know it by its gifts. St. Ephrem reminds us that the breath of paradise reaches us with its healing balms. A balm is an ointment. It's a lotion, a cream that is used to ease the suffering of the body. In the Bible, the balm of Gilead is precisely this and also much more. In the Old Testament, it's actually associated with a geographical location. The reference is to a land, a region east of the Jordan River, a region that was known in ancient times for producing a rare and healing ointment. This ointment came from a tree resin, and people traveled great distances to get it. This healing ointment, however, is not what inspired the hymn that we sing. The balm that heals the sin-sick soul, the balm that makes the wounded whole, the balm that brings soul warmth and candlelight into the darkness inside of the wolf is not rare. It is not far afield, and it is not a medicinal elixir. The hymn that we sing was inspired by a balm that is commonplace, the commonplace living out of freedom. The common is mud, meaning of sanctuary. The balm that revives us, soul level deep, when we feel most discouraged is not a physical thing, but it is an art and genuine practice of sanctuary. We are the art and genuine practice of sanctuary. Make us where we are a sanctuary, each made holy, loved right through, with thanksgiving, we'll be a living sanctuary. There was just a hearing, I'll close with this thought. There was just a hearing in Washington, D.C., a congressional hearing, in which a congressman from North Carolina talked about, disparagingly about what he called sanctuary policies. He said, Madam Attorney General, Madam former Attorney General, as it turns out, I want to be sure that the American people understand exactly what we're referring to when we talk about sanctuary policies. They are often framed as sort of innocuous terms, like we refuse to take part in immigration law. And when you add it all up, the population of those sanctuary cities, represented by those cowardly politicians, these are his words, amounts to 40% of the American population. We need to breathe new life into this story. Sanctuary policies were made real, were brought to book, not in courtrooms or in congressional hearings, but in rooms just like this one. The people in prayer, people in faith and in love committed to keeping families together, created what we now call as sanctuary policies. In 2019, there was an interesting story in the news. Colorado governor pardons woman who took sanctuary to fight her deportation. Colorado Governor Jared Polis pardoned Ingrid Encalada La Torre, who has taken refuge in the Unitarian Universalist Church in Boulder, Colorado, while fighting her deportation to Peru. The governor's pardon means that her immigration case will now be reopened and her deportation order can be reconsidered. Encalada La Torre is one of the 4 women in sanctuary in Colorado. The others are Araceli Velasquez, Rosario Sabido, and Jeanette Vizquera, who was named as by Time magazine as one of the 100 most influential people in the world in 2017. The living sanctuary that they speak of, that they were saved by, was the sanctuary in the church in Boulder, Colorado. On the cover of your orders of service is the sanctuary of the Unitarian Universalist Church in Boulder, Colorado. This is where sanctuary policies were made real for people whose lives were saved. It is also the sanctuary where they argue about keeping the kitchen clean enough, where they fight about how to more neatly store the new folding chairs, where they disagree about whether or not to allow coffee in the sanctuary. Most importantly, it's where they live out the meaning of rebirth. Standing with Ingrid is not cowardly. It is the very opposite. It is courageous. It is what Jesus would have done. In closing, I'll say that for as often as we may try to misuse these words that are holy, these words that we make holy in our interactions with them, not words that are holy independent of our experience of them, but words that we make holy with our engagement. I was strengthened by what Pope Leo said for the gesture of doing this poorly. Pope Leo said, Jesus did not arm himself or defend himself or fight in any war. He revealed himself as the gentle face of God who always rejects violence. Rather than saving himself, he allowed himself to be nailed to a cross, embracing every cross borne in every time and place throughout human history. Brothers and sisters, this is our God, Jesus, King of peace, who rejects war, whom no one can use to justify war. He does not listen to the prayers of those who wage war, but rejects them, saying that even though you make many prayers, they will not listen. Your hands are full of blood. Our need of sanctuary extends to the people who would falsely make that prayer. And our loving hands are bold and tough enough for them. The closing words I can't find, but I'll just share what I can remember from them online. It was a young woman who was narrating the video representation of her own choreography. And she said, maybe this darkness is not the darkness of the tomb, but the darkness of the womb. Maybe the darkness in our country is our struggle to be born. So we have to breathe into it. What do they tell you in labor? First they say breathe, and then they say push. So we must breathe to beautify, and then we must push to make it so. There are two wolves within us, wolves of kindness and wolves of greed. The wolf who is triumphant is the wolf we choose to feed. May we choose well. And may we renew our hearts, our egg collections, and our stories with new life. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.